There you go. We on?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to call the February 24th, 2026 meeting of the County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency to order. Tim, could you do a roll call of the members?
Sure thing. Nick Nally,
Present.
Mary Ellen Chesbro.
Here.
Mark Greco.
Here.
Tim Stahl, I'm here. Gary Standard.
Present.
Pat Carroll.
Here.
And Trish Peter Clark.
Present.
We are all here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Austin?
Yeah, I will go through staff and guests today. It's Austin Wheelock, CEO of the County of Oswego IDA, Kevin Lamontagne, CFO of the County of Oswego IDA, Kevin Caracoli, General Counsel for the County of Oswego IDA, Nate Emmons, staff member of Operation Oswego County. Also joining us as guests are Legislator Novak and Jim Cannon.
Thank you. Welcome, guests. Okay, item number 1 on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting in January. Any questions, comments on those?
I have one question. The Phoenix discussion, there was a motion on here, but the second page says the discussion was held in executive session, no action taken, but there was action taken. Looks like possibly out of executive session.
So, yeah, so what happened, there was a discussion in regular session related to an initial resolution for the project.
Okay.
And then there was discussion related to the company and their financial position in executive session. No action needed to be taken related to that discussion though. In
Okay.
executive sessions.
So the action that was taken was passing the initial resolution.
Correct, which was done in
It was
regular
before-
session before we went into
executive
executive session.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
motion by Mark, second by Gary. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Notice the meeting was in the Pale Times on February 10th. Financial report, Kevin.
Yeah, you have the financial report right here, so on the portal. There's a couple of things I just wanted to mention and give a little update on. First of all, we fairly recently approved transitioning our banking relationships or to find a different type of account structure that had FDIC, we could work within FDIC limits and also get a better return than we've been getting from our current bank partner. So we're in the process of doing that. Some of you have been, I guess, bugged by our office to get signatures and respond to emails from Pathfinder Bank, NBT, etc. Thanks all that I had to do that. We are still in the process of getting all the printed stock ready, deposit slips, checks, things of that nature, getting access to see the accounts established. So that, but in the meantime, we've set up, believe it or not, 15 new accounts between NBT and Pathfinder. We currently have 9 accounts at KeyBank, so we've broken 20 as bank accounts at the moment. We've closed 3, but of those 9, we've now closed 3. So just really give you an update that's in process. We've moved about $2.5 million to Pathfinder and NBT out of KeyBank. We've switched our billing, so when we're billing for, say, a pilot closing, our invoice has always had recent years at least, has had our electronic payment information. We've switched that to be the NBT primary checking account where that will sit in the future per our past discussion. So really the bottom line is it's underway. Not done yet, but underway. And so far, so good. It's a bit of a, 24 accounts to reconcile, et cetera, is a bit of a headache when we get the KeyBank accounts closed over time. That will reduce, but we're still ending up with more because of the structure of moving money into this intra-FI account to enjoy FDIC accounts under 250,000, but also get a higher rate of return. It's a multiple account structure to transfer in and out of this sort of savings account that is the intra-FI ICS accounts. I just wanted to give the board members an update on that. So nothing to no concerns and no action to take, but we will be seeing some of that interest income in future months.
Right.
If we, I think on the balance sheet, I don't really have any other comments on the income statement. Really, everything's as expected. We have seen a revenue uptick this month with some closings. We have another one. This is only per January. We had another closing for Travery Manufacturing in February, and we have a couple others in queue that will soon be closing and paying our fees, or will be closing into the summer, hopefully by July 31st. So Yeah, yes, there's potentially two. One would be RPN Solar 9 that we know that which just got pushed back a little bit, or at least the pressure taken off to close by the end of February. And the other one is the 7 West Bridge Street project for those relating to the building, the SEMA building downtown
Okay.
here. Selkirk Lighthouse is another one in queue that will likely close, but by July 31st for sure. So that's all I have right now.
Any questions? Came up? They get a motion. Tim,
I'll second.
seconded by Tricia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is opposed, motion is approved. Check signing procedures.
I can handle this. So, the IDA, for as long as I can remember, and this is going back to the early 2000s, has had a check signing procedure that would require, so any checks signed by the IDA up to $500 is one signature, which could be either CEO, CFO, or an officer. You should have a document here if you see what this is. Over 500, it requires two signatures, being CEO or CFO and an officer. We're just trying to modernize these and trying to make some consistency across the different organizations. So what we're looking to do is sort of just make this consistent with the policy that Operation Oswego County has. So that is what you see as the proposed here. So the change would be from what it is now up to 500, one signature would be up to 1,000, one signature. Up to 2,500 would be two signatures, which could be CEO, CFO, or any officer, and then over two signatures would require CEO or CFO and an officer. So we're just trying to make it so some of it is that there's just the frequency of having to have a board member come in for minor checks and things like that can be somewhat of a challenge. We're not, and like I said, we're just for our own purpose trying to have some consistency so that one organization doesn't have one policy or procedure and another organization has another. So we've discussed this with Kevin. There's no issues that we see in terms of being able to do this. And from my knowledge, I don't know if this was the original check procedure going back to when the IDA was formulated back in the 70s. But, like I said, I think that the numbers are a little out of date at this point. So we're just looking to try to modernize that.
I have a question on your proposed up to 2,500 two signatures, CEO or CFO, not and any officer?
So that would be and would be over 2,500. So this would be, so any check, so it's a good thing you brought it up. So any check between 1,000 and 2,500 would be able to be signed by myself and Kevin without needing an officer signature. Over to 2,500 would require Kevin or I and an officer signature. So we're just trying to stay with that middle ground there in the middle. If it's a check for $1,500, that we don't have to have an officer have to come in to sign a check for that.
Okay, all right,
But anything still at 2,500 or over, we would still need that.
gotcha.
This is nothing in response to an audit. Or
Nope.
anything.
No, it's just us so that we have the same policy or same procedures between Operation Oswego County, the IDA, and Civic Facility Corporation.
And the auditor doesn't question Kev signing the checks as a CFO. Right?
No,
Controls and a team of 4.
and I'm sorry to jump in a question about me, I guess, but basically we've looked at that with them. We have other internal that we've been working through
Yeah.
over the years, these other internal
Yeah.
controls in place. So,
Right.
generally speaking, I don't sign a check on my own, just,
Right.
because it's
Yep.
not, it's Austin generally it would
Yeah.
be aware of the expenses and things of that nature. He was out on a backup, essentially. That's how it works in practice, but, no, they haven't raised any issue with that.
Is there any circumstance where two officers in lieu of the CFO and CEO would be permitted to sign?
That always could be done. Yes,
Mm.
yeah. An officer could step in for CEO or CFO on that proposed.
So should it say for the two signatures, CEO or CFO or any two officers? Would that,
So you're just saying for over 2,500?
I misunderstood your question.
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if there's ever
Yeah.
an occasion where like you're out of the office, but we need something
Some
signed.
yeah,
for
Emergency,
the
maybe
officer.
a point. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think just for that flexibility, I don't see that being an issue.
That
Just raise the
more or less our
question.
intent.
Yeah.
We're interchangeable, I guess, at that.
Yeah.
As long as there's one officer. Yeah, yeah. Why don't we can clarify that?
Mhm.
Or at least one officer. And you have two, maybe.
Okay, good.
At least one officer.
Yeah, I mean, somehow you can figure out the language.
Yeah.
We all know what our intent is, right?
Okay, sounds good. But we would like to have just a vote to.
Yeah.
That you guys have reviewed this and if you want to have with that minor change that for over 2,500, that 2 officers could sign in lieu of CEO or CFO.
Or under 2,500.
Make a motion to approve as amended.
I'll
Correct.
second it.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Mel. Any questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nice job, guys. Thank you. Executive session procedures.
Sure. So in January of this year, last month, the New York State Authority Budget Office came out with new sort of best practices related to executive session. They came out with a quick reference guide, which all of the board members have in front of you. We discussed internally to make sure that we are following things to the best we can. Within it, so I do want to state that, within there was this is not anything where any IDAs are getting in trouble for anything. This is more of just a best practice and identifying, and they provided new resources for IDAs to make sure that they are providing good information related to the reasons that they're going in. So what they did is they went through over a 3-year period and they did an audit of minutes of meetings. They didn't go and look at any videos. They just looked at minutes. So they had identified multiple IDAs or other public agencies that did not, I guess, I'm trying to think the way to say it, did not fully explain the reasons that they went into executive session within the minutes. So I provided that information to Kevin, our general counsel. Kevin has stated that, from his understanding, the reasons that we actually go into executive session and that we report in the meeting and that is recorded, it is properly captures it, but it hasn't always properly captured it in the minutes. So going forward, we have very specific language that we're going to use in minutes to make sure that we capture that. Kevin, anything you wanted to add on that?
Just that as Austin had said, this was more of an audit of various minutes of IDAs across the state. For the deficiencies noted, they also noted that our board here on several occasions properly identified the correct, and it was on paper, again, the reason for going into executive session. I contend that every time, if you check the tapes, we very clearly define and explain the reason for going into executive session that's compliant with Public Officers Law 105. Just that, as Austin mentioned, when it's translated down and put down into the minutes, it's not as clear. And that's what the ABO was picking up on. They just reviewed minutes. They did not review tapes. So,
And they didn't just review us.
no.
They reviewed.
There were half a dozen anyway.
There was, I think there's like maybe 25 or something, 20 to 25 or something like that they looked at. Yeah. But.
And they weren't, I don't think it wasn't just, it was public authorities in general.
16 public authorities that they looked at.
Yeah. Yep. So this guide is very helpful. I again contend that we generally follow it. Just now the minutes will be more reflective of the reasons.
It looks to me like we need to be slightly more specific.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah,
out of this?
correct. With respect to, there's some nuances, like for instance, litigation. We were talking about litigation. There's a note there that the individual entity name does not need to be disclosed if it could adversely affect the interests of the board. So if we're talking about, a particular lawsuit, we don't have to name the lawsuit. However, if the lawsuit's pending and it's in public, it's been filed, then you really should say we're going to discuss the XYZ lawsuit in executive session. You don't have to necessarily explain why, and maybe there's a settlement offer that we need to review and propose whether we accept it or not. But if it's pending or if it's threatened litigation, you don't have to identify.
If we're considering litigation against someone for some reason on our own, we
Correct.
don't have to identify who we're considering.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And just another example here that I want to point out, and this is one that we've used before and what we'll be doing going forward is, so instead of, stating to discuss the purchase and sale of certain property, it's, to discuss the proposed acquisition of property where the value could be significantly affected by public disclosure. Things that are common sense, but you need to be very specific in that and state, that second part of the statement. So, so this is something that is, this is a brand new document that they provided to all IDAs. So what we intend to do going forward is have this be part of the packet for every meeting. And so that way, when we go into executive session, if there's questions about why we're going in, you guys have a document in front of you. See that.
And again, those notes are important because in Austin's example, the specific property doesn't need to be disclosed. And I think that's for obvious reasons. You don't want to telegraph the move, right?
Mhm.
So same thing with the next one, and some of these we will be going into executive session, and these are the reasons to discuss matters pertaining to. They're saying the employment history, but it also can be the financial history of a particular person or corporation, right? You don't have to identify the person or corporation that you're discussing. Some of it, again, may be obvious based on our minutes, but the substance of what we're going to talk about is still protected until it's not, right? Until you come out and you take some action like we did, with respect to Huhtamaki. Kind of did that in reverse last meeting, but it still pertains. Some of the information that we discussed in executive session was sensitive to the company. And so again, as long as the minutes are reflecting the reasons for going in and there's enough specificity, then we've complied with the ABO's requirements.
Anybody got any questions? We don't need to take an action on this, right?
No,
No.
not until we go into executive session. Right before.
Site clearing.
Sure. So I'll report on this. So as you know, we are getting ready. We're getting very close to start the project down at the Oswego County Industrial Park. He has been working closely with our engineer. We're at 100% design. They're working on design documents. However, we do have a small project to undertake before we can do the larger project, and it's time sensitive. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife requires that if you're going to clear trees on a site that could potentially be considered as bat habitat or bat meeting area or other things, you only have a window of time between November 1st and March 31st to clear those trees. So we have identified, and you have in front of you is a map that shows, got 3 sections in particular on it that show small areas that need to be cleared for the right of way for the road and future infrastructure. Those 3 areas altogether are approximately about 1.2 acres. There's no area that's more than, I think, 0.4 or 0.5 acres. And so we are currently receiving proposals. I think we've sent it out to 5 different qualified for tree removing services. And this is important because we need to get this done before March 31st, or we have to wait until November to do it. So we are doing this as sort of separate from the larger bid package project. And it is not utilizing any state or federal funds for this project. So we're following the IDA's own procurement policy related to this. So what we're requesting at this time, and we're still getting those bids in. I believe we received a couple of them, and we anticipate that we'll receive a couple more here before the end of this week. But what we are proposing is that the IDA go with the lowest qualified bid for the services, and we will select that by the end of this week, and we will make that announcement of who that entity is. With the intention that the project will start on or about March 1st and be completed before March 31st.
Now, do they just have to cut the tree?
Correct.
Right?
Just cut
We
it.
don't
They don't have to
get
remove
all-
it. No, that'll be done.
And all that.
I mean, they could, but it's not required for this. All you have to do is the tree needs to be cut. And then the stumps and removal and all that other stuff can be done in a later phase of the project.
Fans don't care about stuff.
No, they don't.
No. And like I said, we're not taking out trees that bats are currently in. Bats, they hibernate in caves. So
Yep.
what we're doing is we're taking down trees that and like I said, we're in a very selected area that, 3 areas that all combined is about 1.2 acres total. And so we've, have other authorities to do the project. We just need to move forward at this point. So
Are you looking for an authorization, like a not to exceed right now, or?
I would say I wouldn't necessarily say not to exceed. I would say lowest qualified bid.
Okay.
We have one, but I don't want to use that. And I don't want to say it because somebody else could be listening and say, well, I can beat that number by $1 and then.
Yeah, understood.
And within our procurement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's different sort of ranges that trigger different.
So. Can we get a motion?
So just real quickly.
Yeah.
What if that's the only bid we get? What if that's the only response we
We
get?
have 2.
We have 2 so far.
We have 2 already? Okay, then, okay, good to go.
Yeah, they're due actually by 4th. So I anticipate these 2.
And you guys feel comfortable with the people that you've selected to submit proposals, that no matter who comes in, you're gonna be
Yeah.
comfortable with their work?
And we only requested from qualified entities. that-
Less is not always better in some cases, so I just
That's
want to
true.
make sure that you guys are comfortable with who you've selected, they'll be able to fulfill the job.
Yes. Yeah, there will be certain insurance requirements and other things that, we're not having a couple good old boys on their snowmobiles and chainsaws go out. But,
Oh, but they would have fun.
no, we're definitely, these are all entities that, are qualified to do the work and have done, similar projects, at the scale before.
Okay,
I'll make a motion.
Mark, second, Pat,
Nick, before we go to the vote, can I just clarify? Are
Yeah.
we authorizing pilot EDF funds, a portion, very small, but a portion of the money allocated to the project for this, or is
Yeah, I think that's probably,
just so before we?
yeah, I think that, if you want to state that the funding would come out of pilot EDF funds, I think that's
from the
important.
expansion construction portion of the project?
Uh,
What I was thinking.
yeah, yes.
Makes sense.
Okay. Any more discussion? Questions, comments? All those in favor?
All right,
Right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Land acquisition for expansion of the entrance.
Sure. So you'll also see in your packet, you have a sheet that shows a map that has a 1.62 acre parcel that's highlighted. So the existing industrial park, the 135 acre existing industrial park, all unutilized property at this point is still owned by Operation Oswego County. The road, the entrance to the new park, to connect to the loop, the existing loop, has to cross that 1.62 acre piece of property. Through conversations that we've had with our project managers at the federal level in particular, it is in the IDA's best interest to acquire that property because some of the federal grant funds will be spent on it. And then also other improvements, signage and other things like that. And so what my recommendation would be is that and really, so we're not talking about a dollar number in now. I think what we're talking is authorizing the IDA to submit an offer, fair market value, for property. I can certainly discuss what that is.
I think the amounts to be in executive session.
yeah, but also the acquisition of the property. Why wouldn't all this be an executive session? Why are we showing our cards?
Well, because Operation Oswego County.
Minor from operations.
Yeah.
Oh, that- well,
Yeah.
that-
I will lay that part out. In this
Okay.
case, since Operation Oswego County owns it and there's a relationship between the
Very
organizations. I'm not, and they're 100% supportive of doing the project. So,
Thanks.
but I think
That's a good
that
question.
it is a good question because that would be typically a reason that we would say, hey, listen, if something that could impact the value by public disclosure, you would want to do that because there's this existing relationship and I don't have any concerns that discussing this in open session will impact the value between those two organizations. I'm not worried on that. What I would say is that, our offer should be for fair market value. There are ABO rules related to overpaying for property, underpaying for property, and fair market value. I think that last year, and this was an Operation Oswego, or actually No, actually, no, the IDA paid for it. My apologies. The IDA last year, if you remember, did appraisals on property. They did an appraisal on the property next door to this, so we know what the value on a per acre basis is. I believe, that's where that offer in that range. We're talking 1.62 acres of land. We're not talking, a massive piece of property. So I don't foresee any issue with that. I guess, what I would just say is if you authorize us to go forward to do that, and then we can, before, it would have to be approved by both sides, which could be done at our next meeting. But I just want to make sure we do this so that way.
We're
When-
giving you approval to make the deal, and then we got to approve the final price,
Right.
right? Basically,
Yeah.
at this point.
Yep. And like I said, it's based on fair market value that was identified in the appraisal that was.
All right, well, don't get up too easy to that executive director. He's tough.
Mhm.
Well,
All right, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Pat. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Refer to our sheet here. Yeah. Looks like we may need to go into executive session for the next three items on the agenda. Kevin, could you explain why?
Sure. So, respect to the three items that are starred for executive session, they really all fall under the heading of, what it says exemptions corporations to discuss the financial history of a particular third-party corporation, or in the case of under the exemption personnel, even though personnel is not mentioned in the public officers laws, to discuss matters pertaining to, in this case, the financial history of a particular person or corporation. So that's all consistent with section 105 of the public officers law.
Okay,
I'll make a motion.
Tricia. Let's get the second first.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion by Tricia, second by Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.